We are recording. Go ahead.
Welcome everyone to our class on Sefer Gaon. As we always do, we give just a brief overview, get us involved. So we're in the middle section. The first section was about concepts, and we're in the middle section of Sefer Gaon. We finished all the shemos, the terms, and now we're in the middle section of explaining statements. Then after statements, we build syllogisms, and we go into the last part of the book where he actually demonstrates his system. So we're in statements, and as we said, there's a overview, a overlap here with direct funos, because we're basically talking about the same statements, although we did make some observations that some of them left out. We'll bring that up later. In statements, he spoke about the parts of statements. We know there's the no say nasu, the subject predicate. The second thing is the kesher, which is the is, sometimes or the who in Hebrew. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, so you have to supply it. And then he talks about the different kinds of statements. And statements could be divided, as he did in two nos, mitzad the no say, to say that they're all statements, some statements, or particular statements. That means all Jews have a chelek olam haba, some people are Zoris and Iskar, and Yerushalayim is Tamatami. Those all some in particular. Then they could be affirmative or negative, meaning Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek olam haba is an affirmative statement, and ein davar ra yored melamala, nothing bad comes down from above, is a negative statement. The statements he brought into Rishon and Sheni, a little different than he did in Higayon, but the Rishon is the same thing. He calls the Mugbal, Shachal Efshar, Meniya, and Hechrach, and the Sheni, the conditional exception, and Mamayit. Okay, so Adkan, we did the statements, and then he told us that statements can be true, false, mukhrach and efshar, medakdek and metaphorical. This little section does not come next in the chapter. We spoke about it a little, where it actually belongs. The next thing that he speaks about is taking statements and doing the chiluf and the nigud. What's the difference between the chiluf and the nigud? The chiluf means you change the position of the subject and the predicate. And the opposition means you keep the subject and predicate the same, except you change whether it's an affirmative or a denial. And that's where we're holding. So we're going to be studying this little section now. So we have our statements, we know what type they are, and we're now going to do the inverse. We're going to switch subjects and predicates, and we're going to see whether the statement turns out to be true. Now that little section is the section on diukim in direct funos. Okay, because if I say Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek olam haba, so the diuk from that was, if you don't have a chelek olam haba, you can't be in Kol Yisrael. And one that has chelek, there has to be at least one person that has chelek olam haba, which is part of the Jewish people. So we're going to go over this section now in detail, and we'll be comparing it to what he did in direct funos, and we're going to notice that there's differences in the diukim, in the conversions here, the chilufim, and we're going to try, Bezat Hashem, to explain that. So let's get to our text. Now, here are two circles, and these two circles represent the nosei and nasu. We call them A and B, okay? And what we're going to do is use them to demonstrate the chilufim. But before we do that, I just wanted to explain that the A, which is the subject, is either not going to be found in B. That means all A is not B or no A is B. The A subject can be found in B, okay, meaning that all A is B, or some of the A subject can be found in B, and some of the A subject will not be found in B. Okay, those are the three possibilities. Either no A is B, all A is B, or some A is B. Those are the only three possibilities that we have in logic and create the intersection between a subject and a predicate. The reason why we have to talk about this is because in statements, when you say, for instance, all A is B, there's two possibilities. There's one possibility which we showed you here, which all A is B and all B is A. All religious Jews have bris milah, or religious men have bris milah, and all that have bris milah are religious Jews. That works at the A is B, but also the predicate's relationship to the subject is equal. But all A is B, it's not mukhrach that all B is A. It could also be that all A is B looks like this, that all A is B, but only some B is A. Okay? So we have to be careful in analyzing statements because the diyukim, which are mukhrach, can only come through the careful analyzation of the relationship between the subject and the predicate. Okay, that was just a little introduction. But we're using this little handmade chart of mine to explain this little chapter, and hopefully to get some clarity. So he says like this: what is a chiluf? The chiluf, he says, the chiluf amar hu som hanose b'makom hanasu v'hanasu b'makom hanose v'yeh hamamar emiti. The converse of a statement is when we put the subject in the place of the predicate in the place of the subject, and the statement turns out to be true, because not all these transpositions of subject and predicate will work out. As we said, all A may be B, but all B may not be A. So we're only talking about the ones that will be true. That's his focus here. He doesn't want to talk about all the false ones because there's many of them, so he just focuses on what must be true, what chiluf must be true. And remember, chiluf really is talking about what we could say the predicate's relationship to the subject. In other words, Kol Yisrael Yeshem Chelek Olam Haba. Well, what can we say about those people that have a Chelek in Olam Haba? What's that relationship to Kol Yisrael? Okay, so that's called the chiluf. Now, he says the chiluf comes in three different flavors: the pashut, the nikre, and the hefchi. The pashut, hu chiluf nosei b'nasu, v'nishma hakamas v'ha'echus. It's a simple transposition of subject and predicate, and we leave the kamas, which means all or some, the same. That's the kamas of the subject. And the echus is going to be whether it's affirmative or negative. Okay? And so we leave them the same. Perisho, he spells that out. Shenisha mechayev im hay mechayev. If the statement originally was a affirmative statement, remains affirmative. O sholel im hay sholel. If it was originally a negative statement, it will remain negative. V'chein hakamos. If it was an all statement, it remains an all statement, some statements, remains a some statement, etc. So all we're going to do is leave we switch the subject and the predicate and leave the amount of the subject alone, even though it was switched, and leave the affirmation of the denial. So here's his example, derech mashal. Now he's going to use, in his examples, klali affirmative statements. But this is what he says. He says, Kol adam hu bal chai medaber, kol chai medaber hu adam. We have the subject in the first sentence is adam, which turns out to be the predicate in the second sentence, and the predicate in the first sentence, bal chai medaber, will now be the subject in the second. Okay, and we left the commas alone. It was a klali in the first statement, it's a klali in the second one. We also left the kesher here, which he calls the echus, also the same. Both of these are affirmatives. So all A is B and all B is A. That's called a simple conversion. Now, he's not going to tell us yet which ones have to be true. That he's going to tell us in a second when he gives us the rules or the laws of conversion. But right now, he just explained what conversion is. The first type of conversion is simply switching the places of the subject and the predicate, leaving the commas and the echos, the amount, and whether it's affirmative or negative, alone. Okay, that's called a pashut. Because he does all you did was switch the subject and predicate. Go ahead.
So even though when you switch the subject and predicate, you're actually switching the concept, because in the first one you're talking about all people, and in the second one you're talking about all Baal Chai.
Exactly.
So
right. Yes, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, no, so that was the only thing that I think that was bothering us last time, that you're switching things around so it becomes a different statement. It happens to be the commas and the echos are the same, but now it is a different statement. It may be true or not, but I guess the purpose of this is, in logic, is we have to investigate. That's what I understand.
Yeah. Now, what I think here the purpose is, and I'm trying to say that as best as I can, is to establish what is the relationship of the predicate to the subject. Okay, so it's not like they're two unrelated statements. Once I say that A is related to B, okay, so then I could start talking about a relationship of B to A. For instance, if A, let's take an easy one. If A is not B, then B is not A, right?
Right.
So if I know that no evil comes from Shemayim, so then I know nothing that comes from Shemayim is evil.
Right.
If I know that no men are rocks, then no rocks are men. So what I can infer from the first statement is the second statement. So it's just not, it's not just randomly talking about a different statement completely.
Right, there's a relationship.
Actually, if the first statement is true, then the second statement must be true. Okay? If no men are rocks, then it must be true that no rocks are men. That's included within the first statement. It's a deal mukrach of the first statement.
Right.
Okay? So that's what the value of this is. It's to investigate new information that's not expressly stated in the statement, although it must be true.
Right.
And that's called an inference. That's how he defines an inference in their Tfunos. Okay, it's things which must be true even though they're not stated in black and white. Okay, so that's why these chilukim are very important. Also, when you compare statements, let's say you have comparing statements of Mishnayos or different people, or different Amarayim, they can come in different forms, so you have to know if they are related. It may look like the statements are not related because one has subject A and one has subject B, but on a closer examination, they could actually be saying the same thing, just from a different direction. Right. Are you with me? So yes. This is not just intellectual games. It's really, really very, very important. First, in understanding what can you say mukhrach from a statement, and two, when you're comparing statements, can you say these two statements are unrelated, related, and if they are related, how much are they related? Okay, so
Basically, we're saying,
go ahead.
this is the concept in all statements, really, just to repeat, is that it's just as important to understand what's stated in the statement as to understand what's not stated in the statement.
Correct.
And
Correct.
because what's not stated, you could infer, and that's where most of the Gemara was what is the inference?
Exactly. And actually, most of the Gemara is not these types of inferences. Most of the Gemara are the built-in mukhrach ones. That's another discussion, because these are quite obvious. These are mechanical. We may need these when we're trying to bring a proof, or they may be brought, but since they're mechanically correct, there's no real chiddush in bringing them, unless you have to bring a raya from some sort of one of these diukim, or you want to bring a disproof from a diukim. It can happen. I'm not saying no, but the real excitement of the Gemara is in the built-in mukhrach ones. Like we said Arba Abbas Zikim. See? So now there's 4 of them. So the question is, Lagufe, it just says you might have thought there was 1, 2, and 3. So Lagufe, that just means that there's not 1, 2, and 3. There's 4 of them. But the Diuke, we have to say what did it come to eliminate.
Right.
And so then we have all sorts of interesting things what it came to eliminate. The Rosh, the Shia, all these things. Both of them. But anyway, let's just hold on this. The important thing here is to realize that although this is being expressed just in a very mechanical way, it is a very important discussion of what we can learn from the statement, what we can learn about the predicate of the statement, okay, and its relationship to the subject. That's the real yesod here.
Right.
Okay. So all A is B, all B is A. He's just going to tell us the move. That's called a pashut chiluf. Okay, because we leave everything alone, we just switch subject and predicate. And as I said, he'll tell us where those are true, Okay, and then we can decide where they're not true. The mikri, he says, sheyishmor ha'echus v'lo hakamas. So now we're going to change one variable, the echus, which is the no. Wait a minute.
Yeah, the echus is the amount. Echus is the amount. You're talking about either kol or less than kol. Is that right? I'm sure that should be kamas, no? That's the kamas. Right. That is. Let me see. I have the say from this. Kamas. Derech mashal kodim hu balchai.
Should be the kamas.
Right. Mikri sheishmar ha'echus v'loy ha'kamas. Right. So the echus stays the same, but the kamas changes. Kamas changes. The mashal for that is kol medab.
Exactly. 100%. I know. Yeah, 100%. Okay. Yeah.
So the kamas is the right. The kamas is
exactly. The echus, in other words, if it was a makayim, it's a makayim. But what you're changing is the kamas. I wrote below is the kamas. I understand. Okay. So here's the example. Kol medaber hu chai. All speaking things are living things, and there's certain living things that are speakers. Okay. So there exactly. We keep the echus the same. In other words, it's a makayim statement in both statements, and we change the commas, okay, from a klali to a ktsasi, okay? Ki harishon memra klali, v'sheni chalki, okay, which is called ktsasi, and tfunos, the same thing, okay? So
right.
We said all A is B with some B is A.
Right. Right.
Okay. Now we're going to do changing the zera, okay,
right.
Which he calls the hefki. Sheyishmor hakamas v'lo ha'echus. Here we're going to keep the kamas as it is, but we're going to change the echus.
Right.
Now we said kol medaber hu bal chai and kol she'eno bal chai eno medaber. So we said all the speakers are animals, and all that are not animals can't be speakers, like rocks. Okay. So now you asked a good question. I mean, this is the formal way that it has to be done. Yeah, but But why do we all of a sudden switch to non-B's? You with me? Okay. He says, Kol Medaber, he says, Kol Medaber Hu Baal Chai, right? So here's the Medabers, A's, and they're all Baal Chais.
Right.
Okay? They're all Baal Chais. So I'm going to make him a little smaller. But it turns out, excuse me, there could be two pictures here. It could be the one I just did, because that's Kol Medaber Hu Baal Chai, where they overlap 100%, right? Or it could be, this one is also Kol Medaber Hu Baal Chai, could be this one. Okay. Now, whichever one of those two pictures they are, outside the yellow, which is the anal
Medaber. Eno, right.
The anal Baal Chai is right. Kol Medaber Baal Chai. So the anal Medaber is out here, right?
Right.
Here's the anal Medabers. They're over here. Okay. So now, if it's outside here, it obviously can't be if it's not a Baal Chai, then it can't be a Medaber either. Since Kol Medabrin, which is this A, are Baal Chais, that's the B line here. Maybe I should make that better for us, okay? Make it a little clearer. Let's just make it clear here. Oops, can't see the A, but here's Kol Medabrin Hu Baal Chai, right? So anything that's outside the Baal Chai box over here can't be a Medaber, correct?
Right.
That's Mukhrach. Okay? The Seder. So that's the Hefchim. Now, why did he all of a sudden talk about this box? That's what you also asked last week, right?
Right. Right.
We were talking about the relationship of a B to an A, right?
Right. So I get
about the relationship of a non-B.
Right.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
by talking about the relationship of those that aren't, you understand now the relationship of those that are.
Not really. The B relationship to A is not mukhrach, because it could be that there's, like in this example, that some B's are A. It could be that all B's are A. Right? If all A's are B, then it could look like this. This is all A's are B. That means, but B is larger than A. All Jews are men, right? So the men box is much bigger than the Jews, right?
Right.
Or it could look like all Jewish men have, all religious Jewish men have bris milah, and all that have bris milah are men, are religious Jews. That could be that they're overlapping. So we really don't know the relationship of B to A. We know that there must be at least one B that's an A. That has to be. Okay. But that has to be. There has to be at least one B that's an A. Anyway, the question is, how do we jump outside this box? Okay.
Right.
And that's all they have to do. Okay, so I know it's true, but I can't answer that more deeply than just to say that it's true. I can't answer it more deeply. The deeper analysis of this is like this. I'm going to show you the deeper analysis of what's going on here. Oops. What happened here? Oh, that's what's happening. I got it. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Toys here. Okay. Okay. Look, the deeper analysis is like this. Really, whenever you say that there's some subject has a relationship with a predicate. Every sentence is a relationship of a subject to a predicate. Either A doesn't exist in B, or it does exist, some of it exists in B, or all of it exists in B. Those are the only possibilities. But the sentence really is putting those two things together. But whenever you say A, you also imply non-A. If I say all Jews have a chelik in olam haba, so now automatically, since I talked about Jews, I can always talk about now, what about non-Jews? Okay? And when I talk about a chelik in olam haba, I can always talk about those things that don't have a chelik in olam haba.
Right.
Okay, so whenever I have A and B, I'm going to have a non-A and a non-B. But the chiddush here is that some of the things I will be able to speak about, and some of the things I won't be able to speak about because they're not mukra. For instance, if I say, Kol Yisrael Yeshem Chelik Olam Haba, now, I don't know about the non-Jews.
Right. Either they could or they can't. You're not discussing it. It's not right.
I'm not discussing it. That's only if the statement is legufe, right? In other words, it's like things that have to be thought about. What was the havamina to say Kol Yisrael Yeshem Chelik Olam Haba? Okay.
Right. So if you're going to say the havamina was that the havamina, what's the chiddush? Why am I saying Kol Yisrael Yeshem? Because otherwise you would have thought that either you could say that there are some Jews who don't have a chelik in Olam Haba, or that you could say you would have thought that everybody has a chelik in Olam Haba, and I'm coming to tell you that only Jews have a chelik in Olam Haba.
Right. So now what we're talking about now is very, very critical, and it's something that is overlooked many, many times when people learn formal logic, because they're only involved in the mathematics of the A's and the B's, and they don't realize that in language, things exist within context, as we're just discussing now. And that concept, that context will really tell us what the A and the B is coming to tell us, you see. Is the statement really trying to say all Jews have a chelik in olam haba and non-Jews don't? Or is the statement trying to say that all Jews have a chelik in olam haba as opposed to some Jews? You might have thought only some, and the answer is all.
Right.
So that is Gemara, by the way. That is the excitement of learning, because that's the message of the statement, and that's not mechanical.
Right.
There you'll need a raya, and there you'll have discussions. You know what I mean? That's the real essence of learning. But we're so that's what I'm saying. Whenever you have A and B in a relationship in a sentence, it implies already non-A's and non-B's. So the question is what the sentence is coming to say, and then we can make our diyukim. So if we say that, let's say, Kol Yisrael Yeshem Chelik Olam Haba, really you would have thought not all, and to tell you all. So then he's going to explain to us, I can only say that about the chelik in olam, those that don't have a chelik in olam haba, all I could say is that they couldn't be Jewish. That's all. Okay? They can't be Jewish. Now, whether all the goyim do or don't is a whole other discussion. We have to prove it. The statement is not saying that. Okay, anyway, deep stuff. But we're going to try to keep it as simple as we can. That's why he just shows the basic. So many people do this when they talk about logic. I mean, I look at other people around. I look at what people say because I had kashas, and people just repeat the formal aspect of it, and they don't get into what it's really saying. This whole chiddush that you want to know the relationship of the predicate to the subject, people don't spell it out. But that's what you're doing. You're not just simply mathematically changing the position of A and B.
Right.
You're really talking about a different relationship.
Right.
That's what you have to. What you have to say.
Right.
Okay. Anyway,
Right, that's the key.
so
Right.
that was the hefty.
Right.
Okay. And the only reason I brought this up is because here he says all not B's are also non-A. So we started talking about outside B. So the reason why we had to do that is because it's correct. But it's a very deep discussion. What is non-A's and non-B's and their relationship? Okay. But what he's going to do is going to give us the rules of the ones that work. The chilufim that work. That's what he's interested in. Which ones of these chilufim can work? You can make all the combinations, but they're not going to come out to be mukhrach. So we have to know which one's what. So he says like this. Let's start with the, these are the klali hachiluk, which means the ones that work, the rules, the ones that work. So we start with the chiluf klali mechayev. What's a chiluf of a klali mechayev? Well, first of all, what's a klali mechayev? It's all A is B. Okay, that's a klali mechayev. Okay, so. Okay, so he says like this. We said if we take our all A is B, we remember there's two scenarios. So first I'll start with the little scenario where all B is not A. Okay, so he says like this. The Klali Mechayev has two inferences, the Chelke Mechayev and the Klali Sholel, which means all A is B, some B is A, and all that is not B cannot be A. Okay? So let's just check that out logically, right? If all A, the red circle, is found in B, I'll even make it smaller so you can see our B, and remember it could be equal also, but that's not our concern here. Okay. If all A is found in B, so it has to be that there has to be at least one B that's an A, correct?
Right.
Has to be. And it also has to be true that anything outside of B can't be an A.
Right.
Because all B is found in B. So then that's what he says, and these are the examples he's going to bring in a second. All men are living beings. Some living beings have to be men, okay? Like, you have animals and man, so some of them have to be men. And all that are not living beings outside the B box can't be a man either. Okay, so that one is easy.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to skip right now to the other easy one. The other easy one is the sholel, the klali sholel. Okay, that's number 3. Let's go back here.
Which is chiluf hakol sholel.
Klali sholel means that all A is not B. Okay.
So the opposite would be all B is not A.
Right. Now that one's easy. Correct?
Right.
Since all A is not B, he says no men are rocks and no rocks are men. They're mutually exclusive. So once you tell me that there's not a single A that you'll ever find in B, so then you can't find a single B in A. Okay. Now we go to the ones that are a little. So that was the. Now we go to the ones that are a little complicated here. The first one is called the Chiluf Chelke. What's the Chelke Mechayev? Now, Chelke Mechayev is some A is B. Some A is B is going to look like this. Here, over here, oops, I'm going to get some nice color to come out. I don't know what color will come out. Okay. Over here is the sum A that's B, right?
Right.
Now, we have to make another little note here. There's another picture that sum A could be B, right? What's the other picture? This picture. Oops, let's see if I can play with it. No, sum A is B is not that picture. I'm sorry. Sum A is B. Yeah, that's right. It is that picture. If I make this real small, and I put it inside B, oops, and I get rid of this thing, check me, okay. So this is also sum A is B, right?
Right.
Sum A is B, but not
all. But that means that all B's are A's.
That's correct. So there's two possibilities when I say sum A of B. Sum A is B. The other one possibility is sum B is A, and the other possibility is all B is A.
Right.
Totally not mukhrach. I don't know which picture it is.
Right.
Okay. So what he says in the Chelke Mechayev is the converse that works is the chelkei mechayev, that some B must be A.
Right.
Okay, that's true. Some B must be. It may be, in this case, all B is A. But the minimum that we could say is that some B is A.
Right.
Correct? It may be that these other B's could be bigger. So that one also works pretty good. Okay. Now, here he says the controversial one. You'll see. This one blew my circuits last week, and also I spent a lot of time thinking about this one.
Okay.
Okay. This one is called the chelkei sholel. What's the chelkei sholel? Why is it? It says some A is not B. Okay. Where's the sum A that's not B? Okay. If you share the screen, the sum A that's not B is over here, right? Pretty
Right.
ugly picture, but that's it.
Got it. Yeah, we got that.
That's the sum A that's not B, right?
Right. Right.
That's the sum A that's not B.
So what would be the chiluf of some A is not B? The chiluf would be that some B is not A.
Right, but he says that won't work. He says here, look what he says. He says, then we're going to go through this. He says when it comes to this one, the chelkei sholel, ein chiluf mukhrach lo.
Right.
He says there's no mukhrach chiluf. What are you going to say? That some B is A?
No, so what some, you're going to say some chelkei
Because all you know now, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, wait, so what is the
It looks as if you'd be able to say it, right?
chelkei sholel means to say what? That part of it is not. So you're saying that some A is not B.
Right. This
So
area.
what would be the chiluf? What would be the chiluf of some A is not B? You would say some B.
Well, take one like some B is not A.
Right, so that could be, why can't that be true? In your picture here, that's true. So some of the A is not B. Now I'm switching it around saying some B is not A.
Right. Why can't you say that? So I spent a lot of time thinking about this. And then, okay, I don't know, I'll spill the beans now, but
Yeah.
But to make it exciting, we brought the Dertunos, which gives that diuk from the statement. So what's going on here? So the answer, to spill the beans, is like this. What does it mean, some? Again,
What is some?
Some
Means,
yeah,
right.
what does it mean, some?
Some means that there are, that some means that there is a number of, I don't know, units that are like B, and then there's some units that are not like B. Whatever it is, people, places, things, when you talk about A's and B's. So some means you have a subset of the entire group of A that have certain qualities that are like B, but there's another subset that doesn't have those qualities.
So a professor said that in his class, a professor of logic, and one of the students said it's not true, and he almost threw him out of the class. So he went and he asked people, and the people said, "You're right."
The student was right.
Okay, so here the student was right.
Yes.
Now why? So the yesod is like this, and it took me time. First I figured out myself, and then I did see other people who spoke about it. It goes like this. Again, what does some kam lafuke? So you see, you and Dertunos will also say, well, if I say some, it comes to lafuke all.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So therefore, if I say, right, some men are wise, some men are not wise, some men are not wise, some men are not, because some comes lafuke all. But it turns out that these logicians are not using some that way. They're saying that some means at least one. It's lafuke none. Lafuke none.
Okay, so if you say some,
So if some is lafuke none, right? Which here's an example.
So if you say some A,
I have marbles.
R, B.
I have marbles in a bag, right? I have marbles in a bag, and I pull out one black marble, right? So
Right.
I could say some marbles in the bag are black, or were in the bag are black.
Right.
Okay. Now it could be that all of the marbles in the bag are black.
Right.
But all I know is that some are. Now, why is it? Now we have to make a distinction between. Okay, I'm going to jump for a second to. Okay, I'm not going to jump. I'm going to explain it straight out because it's a little bit subtle. There's a distinction made between logic and language, which is, I hope I can explain it. Logic means, the way we're going to define it is, if I find one instance of a thing, right, like I say, the marble, I found one instance, I could say, well, some marbles in the bag were black, correct?
Right.
Because I found one instance. But I don't know about the rest of the class.
Right.
So all I could say, some really means there are not none, there are not zero marbles in the bag that are black.
Right.
Because I know there's one. Now it could be that all of them are black, but I just don't know it. So I can only make a statement in Mitzias about one. A lot of times in reality, I don't know the whole class. I can't make a statement about all Jews, all Americans, all Indians, all Chinese. I don't know all the Chinese, right?
Right.
But I can make a statement about some of them. Okay?
Right. Right.
So that's why in Mitzias, when we're talking about the logic of reality, so then if I say some A is B, I leave open the possibility that all A is B.
Okay.
And since all A, excuse me, that's not negative. That's negative.
No,
When
so
I
let's
say that,
right. Some A is if some A is B, could be all A is B. Now talking the negative,
right.
those that are
If some A is not B, it could be that all A is not B.
Okay.
Now that's why here. When it came to the Sholel Mekayim, the Chiluf Chelki Mechayev, if I say some A is B,
right.
If some A is B, this place here in the red, so some B has to be right? It could be that all A is B. That's a possibility. But once I know that some A is B, then I know that some B has to be A. That's mukhrach. Are you with me?
Yes.
It could be that all A is B. I found one A that's to be one black marble I found is black. Very nice. It could be that they're all there, but I know one. So I can medayek that some B has to be an A. At least one B has to be an A, right?
Right.
But now let's look at the negative. When I say that one A, I say one marble is not black.
Right.
One A is not B.
So it could be none of them are black.
It could be that all A is not B.
Right.
Now, since that's true, that all A could not be B, so now I can't make any diukim.
Right.
Why can't I make any diukim? I can't say some B is A, some B is A, or some B is not A. I don't know any of that.
Right.
Since the picture could be this, or the picture could be this, now I don't know the relationship of B to A. Maybe some B is A, and maybe no B is A. There's nothing I could say about it. Are you with me?
Yes.
When I talk about the negative. Right?
Right.
And that's why he says over here, in the text, he says, Ein chiluf mukhrach lo. That's what threw me for a loop last time.
Right.
Ein chiluf mukhrach. It's not mukhrach. Right? Now comes to the stira. You'll notice he wrote something's written in red over here. What's the stira? The steer is when he gives the example. Look what he said.
So the examples that he
Here's the
gives.
example. Here, the example of the negative. What does he say? Eza Adam Eino Chacham, right?
So Eza Adam means
He
some
says,
people are
means
not.
at least one person is not a Chacham, right? That's this A.
Right,
One of them is not a Chacham, right?
right.
He says, Ein Chiluf Muchrach Ki Im Hafki. What's going on here?
Right.
That's why I put it in red.
Well, what did the Hefki
Two
mean?
sentences ago, it's the negative one. It should be the negative of this. It means that some, we wrote it just not to get, Magam Gem.
Oh, so let's slow down. If you talk about Eza Adam Eine Chacham, so what is the chiluf of Eza Adam Eine Chacham? So a chiluf means that you just take the simple chiluf, right? You just say that Eza Chacham Eine Adam.
That's right.
Right, that would be, so that's why he's saying in chiluf ha-muchrach, because you can't say Eza Chacham Einer Adam. But the Hefki'i, and the Hefki'i, he said that you keep the kamas and not the echos, so then you would say, how would you say that? To flip around.
Eza Adam, Eza Chacham Hu Adam.
Eza Chacham Hu Adam. Right. Okay, that would be the opposite. Right.
Right?
Right.
Hey, wait a minute. 2 seconds ago, you told me that there was no chiluf that's muchrach.
Right.
And now you're telling me that there is one. Ki
Right.
im hafki.
Right. 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 Okay, I see that.
Yeah, real problem. So if you looked at the English, if you looked at the English translation here, Reb David was very, very clever, but he sidestepped the issue.
Uh-huh.
If you look what he wrote, and you have the English in
I
front
don't have the English one.
Okay.
I have not
so
have the
what
English
he
one.
writes here, but he
I have
added
the
into
Hebrew. I have the
Rambam.
Hebrew one.
Okay, the setup. Okay, doesn't matter. But what he did was he what we call the Hong Kong suit. He writes here, some men are not wise, has no complete or limited converse, which is a necessary inference. However, the contrapositive is a necessary inference. Some who are wise are men. In other words, he didn't answer the kasha. He
Right.
just said, he just made the text sound good.
Right.
Okay, so I didn't get a chance. It's very late now. Mostly Shabbos, I didn't get a chance to talk to him about this. But I have. There's no question about it. There's a steer here in the Ramchal. In one place he says ein mukhrach lo, and if you learn that no A is a B means that it could be that all A's are not B. Just the only thing I could say in logic. In other words, in reality, I can only say I know about one A. It's not a B.
Right.
That's all I know. Now, so if you say that, then his first statement is correct. So it comes out this ein chiluf ein muchrach lo hefki, but we can explain that if we switch terms. And I'll explain now what he switches terms now, okay? What that means. Wow, this was, you don't know how much hours I put in.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, this was like, driving me mad all week, So let's look at the, and you can read things, but if you don't get involved in the problem, you don't hear what people are saying. That's the reality. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, let's go quickly here. Here is Der Tfunos. Okay?
Right.
Der Tfunos. And he's going to talk about the diukim, right? So we're not going to go through the all ones. That one we know. Okay? But look, and the non ones we know. Those are easy. Look what he says here in the sum ones. Here's the sum, right? So, okay, he says, Yesh Zoras Veniskar. Okay, let's get some A is B. Okay.
Right.
Okay, some A is B. That's right. So, Yesh Zoras Veniskar. So he now is medayek yesh zaris ve'eino niskar.
Right. So yesh zaris ve'eino niskar would be what he calls the hafki'i, right?
Now hold on. Yesh zaris ve'nishkar ve'yesh zaris ve'eino niskar is not a chiluf b'chlal. That you have to hear.
Why not?
Okay? Because we didn't.
Oh, because you didn't switch subject and predicate.
We didn't switch subject and predicate.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
Okay. Right.
Okay. But this is a critical position in the Ramchal. When you read a Gemara, this has to be true. When you talk about finding things in reality and trying to make a klal, then it's not true. So there's two different ways of using language. Now, what do I mean? If it was true in when you make a statement, like a statement in the Gemara, if you say yesh zaris v'niskar, if it was true that kol zaris niskar, then you should have said it.
Right.
So the very fact that you say yesh zaris v'niskar means that the yesh zaris ve'eino niskar.
Right.
Because it would have been a bigger chiddush to say kol
zaris
v'niskar. So in language, which is what we deal with in the Gemara, understanding tunos, understanding what's being said, it's really true that if you see a statement that says yesh zaris niskar, that you can medayek yesh zaris ve'eino niskar.
Right.
But in scientific discovery of Metzias, if you find one element and you say, "Hey, this is a black ball," so you never know if it's the only one, or you found one, but you don't know if all of them are black balls or not.
Right.
Right, you can't. So that's a very, very important distinction. So in language, since I said yesh zaris v'niskar, and it would be incorrect, and he says it in the beginning, I won't point it out now, but he says in the beginning of the paragraph that all these diukum are based on the proper use of language. The proper use of language, not the sloppy use of language. And if you have a bigger chiddush, you should say it. That's a rule. That's a rule of proper speech. So when I say yesh zaris v'niskar, it means yesh zaris ve'eino niskar. Now once that's true, then I can make these other diukim. You see? Once it's true that yesh zaris v'niskar means yesh zaris ve'eino niskar, so then I could make these other diukim, these other chilufim. Yesh she'eino niskar v'hu zaris.
Right.
Ve'echad min niskarin hu zaris. What does that mean? Yesh she'eino niskar. This is the eino niskar. One second. Yesh zaris v'hu niskar. Okay. That's the zaris, and this is the niskar, right? So, good. Yesh she'eino niskar, I'm sorry, v'hu zaris. So there's got to be something outside this box of B that's an A, because A itself is outside of B, right?
Right.
So since A is outside of B, because I'm not going to say that all A is B, because it's not a Metzias question, it's a language question. So then I can make that deal. Now it also, and it has to be that one of the B's are an A. But here's our other exciting one. But this was a double negative. It was very difficult. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. The Katsasi Sholel, I can also make the same deal. If I say that
Yesh kachim.
Yesh kachim she'en lahem pidgin. Wow. There are some kachim don't have pidgin, right? So that's this outside area here, right?
Right.
These are the kachim out here that don't have pidgin. Right?
Right.
So now, if the language would say if all kachim don't have pidgin, then I should have said it. That's a bigger chiddush. So the fact that I said yesh kachim she'en lahem pidgin means that the yesh kachim sheyesh lahem pidgin, which is over here.
Right.
Right? And
Right.
now I can make my other diuk. Yesh sheyesh lahem pidgin v'hem kachim.
Right.
That's this box in the middle.
Right.
And yesh she'en lahem pidgin v'hem kachin, and there's stuff outside here that are really here. If you know what I mean, it's really this. Okay.
Right.
So that was a very important breakthrough to realize, and this is talking about the Yesod of these two books, the difference between finding things in Metzius, which logic is dealing with, the elements of reality, and expressing things in language. And a nafkamino, one of the nafkaminos come right here in the Diukim. Okay.
Wow.
That was a mouthful, but that was a big, I felt very good about that because it was driving me absolutely bananas. Now, as far as the stira inside the Tfunos, the Higayon, the only thing that I could say is that he switched references and didn't tell us about it, which is not a very good answer.
What do you mean he switched references?
That means that first of all, it's not true. He says the hefki. The hefki is true only in language, not in logic. It's a mistake. What I understand, it's a mistake. It can't be. His first thing was correct to say. In logic, when you talk about what is non-A's, there's no
Right. Right.
Okay, and the hefki is only true if you talk about language.
But if you talk about logic,
if you're talking about language already, there's other ones that are also true.
right.
So we'll stop discussion here. It's something that has to be really thought of. Baruch Hashem. That was a lot of work. Okay. Now, and I saw people again after I did all the work. Then I saw people that do discuss this, the difference between the logic and language, which was. But before going through this Kashin Teretz, it wouldn't have meant very much.
Right.
Anyway, that was the exciting part of it. Okay, let's go now.